Well, good morning, everybody. It's a phenomenal day, even though it's a little bit drizzly here in DC. Glad that you all are here to join us, and looking forward to being able to continue this whole thing that I've been very passionate about, which is disrupting the pattern. It's kind of gripped me from the end of last year, actually. So I'm really psyched about this and being able to continue this process. And and to make sure that we're on the right track. So I see there's a bunch of folks coming in. I'm sure there'll be more coming in. I'm Dave Lowe. I'm the CEO of isiFederal here. And with me, I have Jamie Zell, our GSA specialist. Say hey, Jamie. How are you doing?
Doing great. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a great day. And I know it's drizzling in DC, but I'll take that over the snow we had earlier. That's
Isn't
for
that the
sure.
God's honest truth? Good grief. It has just been a hellacious winter. So welcome to you, Jamie. Thanks for joining us, and we're going to talk some about that too. Real quick disclaimer: we are not part of any federal agency or any other agency for that matter. We are a for-profit, unabashed for-profit company. But this is actually for informational purposes only. We have folks coming in from different places to help us from time to time with different government personnel. So we want to make sure you know that this isn't a commitment for anybody to endorse or to buy from any vendor, either you or me or anybody else. So there you go. So I want to make sure we got that out of the way. A little bit about this. We want to help you connect with experts. We'll probably have some more that pop in. I sent out an email this morning to see if we get some other folks to say hey on what they're doing here. Dialogue is very important with this, where it's just free and open, doing the best we can to create the free and open dialogue to help you crack the federal market and show us off a little bit in the process. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? So the numbers that matter most are 170 and 536. And if you're not familiar with why these numbers are so important, I'm going to tell you why right now. If you take a look at these little peaks in the market trends that happen in the federal government, doesn't matter, just about every industry it looks like this, and sometimes it spikes even more than that. So but 200 to 800% is common in September, and certainly in the last weeks of September especially. The last 3 months are critical in any of your business development. And you notice these are all September peaks here. And that's why we focus on September. And there's $280 billion that's going to be spent in the next 170 days. And if you're not in front of your key decision makers, you're behind by 6 months. So in order to be able to effectively get yourself out there, you got to start moving right now if you want anything to do with this fiscal year. Questions real quick. I see one here where Terry has popped up I don't know. Hey, Terry, you there? Terry Boshnowitz, you there? I got you unmuted. I don't know if if you're there, but let me know. Let me know if you have. I saw you had your hand raised, so I want to make sure that we got to that. So real quick, you can do that as well. You can enter questions. Open that panel on the right hand side. Enter questions and make sure that you're unmuted if you called in on the phone by entering your PIN. All right. So if you do those things, we'll absolutely get there. And real quick to get you what on the right track. Why are you here today? Pop open that panel on the right-hand side and tell us why you're here, because we'd like to know if there's anything that in particular that you would like us to answer for you. But we'll run through a couple of things. When you signed up for this, there's a couple of questions, and there's some folks that had filled those in. So we'll go through those first in just a minute. But tell us why you're here. A little bit about us. We do business development into the federal space. That's what we do every day. We start with getting smart about the marketplace, knowing what the market is in your world, to be able to tell you exactly what's happening there, and then to be able to do something about that. And here's just a little bit of bump for us. This is one of our clients. We find things that they simply can't find on their own. We know things and we can find things because of what we've been doing for the past 7.5 years to be able to pull information together that's pertinent for you. Once you know who is most important to you, we can then go after those folks. We provide with marketing services, going out and marketing your GSA schedule if you have one, other vehicles if you have one. In fact, we do vehicle development if you need a GSA schedule. And Jamie, tell us a little bit about our track record in getting GSA schedules.
Well, we got a great track record actually, because every process we begin, we want to make sure we can finish. 100% track record in getting GSA schedules. We've been doing this over 12 years, and a lot of experience in getting new schedules. And also, if you have a schedule, it's important to keep it current. And schedule revisions are one of our specialty as well, to keep your schedule current, get rid of old products, add the new products and/or services, and make sure to keep your prices in line and adjust your prices so as your costs change, that your margins stay intact, and you have good margins in place holding on your GSA schedule as you move through the GSA process. So can certainly help you with that. You see my number right there. If you have any questions or need to do some management of your schedule, please let me know. We'd be happy to help you out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jamie. And really, really happy with things that are happening there. A lot of changes happening in GSA these days. A lot of new developments in multiple realms. So it may affect your company, and professional services, especially, it's affecting your company. So let us know if there's anything that we can do to help you there. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. There we go. I think we're back. All right. So, real quick, some of the other things that we can do, and we have helped companies. We've helped them get NASA SOUP. We've helped them get eFast, and we've helped them get Seaport E. Some of these are extremely, extremely valuable IDIQs that are game changers and oftentimes life changers for the folks that are doing it. So, if you're interested in some of those things, we can help you get those as well. Once we understand, we have your vehicles, we know what we're talking about and who's responsible for doing the purchases, we can provide you dedicated representation. We compete very well with having folks that wind up, if you need somebody to help you with face-to-face representation or some of the grunt work that's associated with that. And here's the key. People buy from people they like, and our job is to find them and help you go get them. And that's what we do every day. And we do that with events. We're going to be talking about some of the events today. There's a lot of events coming up now that it's starting to get into the spring and summertime. We'll see some events happening there, setting you up as featured speakers, getting you as an industry expert so that you're talking to the buyers as an expert. Huge in being able to help you with that. Stalking decision makers. Love this one. We'll talk about this a little bit later too, where we're in events, making sure that we're after the key people that are responsible and gaining influence as a result of that. We provide feet on the street representation, where we're actually physically in front of people where you need it most, in Washington, D.C., and Maryland and Virginia, and other places too. But this is where we focus, and no real shock there, because that's where most of the decisions are happening in the federal government. So that's where you need some of the coverage. That's why we're here. We have tens of millions of dollars in contracts, and that is growing by leaps and bounds because of some of the newer contract vehicles that we have for our clients. So we have a direct impact on your bottom line in being able to effectively get you sales, effectively protect your margins, as Jamie said earlier, and to make sure that you're persistent after the right people. Here's some of the folks that we do business with as far as the federal folks. You can see, and there's a bunch more than that, but here's where we have penetration in different agencies. Lots of agencies all over the place, and we can certainly help there. Another person that helps us out here is Sean, and he's with Revolution Payment Systems. I didn't see him pop in, and I don't see him yet. But I'll tell you a little bit about them. If you do credit card transactions, check these guys out, because they can get your credit card fees down. And we're not paid by these guys. I'm just sending you to them because my clients love them, because it's bottom line dollars. So go ahead and check them out. So why are we here today? Tell us why we're here. If you type in on that right-hand side, let me know, and I'll get to you in just a moment. Let's see. Jan, learn how to win some contracts. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Cheryl, finding winnable opportunities. Keyword there, Cheryl, winnable. Not all contracts are winnable. Craig, get ahead of the RFP. Love it, Craig. Kelly, get help GSA completed. Love that as well. Jason, is Jason here? Let's see, Jason. Yeah, there he is. Help me break into the federal market and provide real insight and not attend vendor days. Advice like other webinars. Beautiful. In fact, we're going to be talking about how to avoid those types of things and figure out what are the best places to go to. Lori, find those agencies that no one markets to. Love it. How about those under the radar agencies? There's a bunch of them out there. And not only that, subsets of major agencies that get flat out ignored. They can be the redheaded stepchildren out there. So Karen, interested as much information as possible prior to initiating the first proposal. Key, right, Karen? Where you don't want to spend your time on presenting a proposal that's not complete. Get as much information as you can and getting ahead of that RFP. Love that. We'll get a strategy how small companies should target opportunities without past performance. Yes. Barath, critical, right? Because there's two things that you absolutely need. You need to have some kind of vehicle, but you also have to have some kind of past performance in order to be able to illustrate. And how do you get a contract without past performance? It's a catch-22, right? So get doors open. Love it, Kurt. Renee, develop other contract vehicles. We're not going to be talking about that today, Renee, but we do those kinds of things. So depending on what you need, you let us know. Sonny, identify federal buyers and the chance to bid, right? Just want to be at the table. One of the things here, Sonny, that I'd like to say is you don't have, I love multiple award contracts and BPAs because it's not just a one and done that sets you out for 5 years. You can be part of a team and just get yourself positioned so that you can at least compete for that. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't, but the idea is to make sure you're at the table. Identify opportunities within our space and learn more about what they are looking for in proposals. Great. Appreciate that. There you go. What else have we got? What else have we got here? Allison, what does DM mean? DM means decision makers. So I appreciate that, Allison. So let's see. We got Bob Thomas logged on. Good. Bob, welcome. Glad that you're here. Any other things that you'd like to accomplish for today? Mark, how do you feel about matchmaking? Does it work? We'll talk about that, and we'll get into that a little bit. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm not a big fan of matchmaking personally, and we'll tell you why in a few. So any other questions? Any other reasons why you're here today? If we missed you, let me know. We will absolutely include you if we can. 93% of the folks that land here need help with business development in the federal space. There's nothing fast, easy, or cheap about it. If you're here, you know that. So we're here to help you with those pieces to help you get through and make those changes so that you can be effective. Free ebook. Go to isiFederal and you can go download that at isifederal.com. We're going to point you over there in a little bit as well. We're going to talk about some things a little bit later. Part of this ebook, I have broken out a 12-step review of what it takes to win business here in the federal government. First, getting smart about the marketplace. We kind of talked about that, and we'll dive into that usually at the end because people want to know how to find the right people. So we'll talk about that. Build relationships with the stakeholders. This is another piece that we're going to be concentrating on today to find those people and ultimately leverage those relationships so that you can, and it's amazing if you're thinking about what you want from people, how fast and how far you can go. And it doesn't take you forever to make that leap or to make that jump between not knowing somebody to being able to connect with them in a way that they feel comfortable with you and are willing to buy because they like you. Today, we're going to be talking about disrupting the pattern, leveraging the networking. We're talking, this whole disrupting the pattern got me. The whole idea of what it is about what happens out there. So before we start on leveraging the networking, I want to rewind to what we've been talking about for the past 5 months now. So first thing, the SBA pattern is, everybody knows this. You get a schedule, you watch FBO, monitor e-buy. If you have not heard these things, you've not been in federal purchasing. So, or trying to buy get federal contracts. Meet with the OSDBUs or small business liaisons. Matchmaking events, just talked about that. The small business matchmaking events. Mark was asking that question. Register for prime vendor databases. How many databases have you registered with? Where you walk in there, oh, we love you. We'd love to have you sub to us, and no phone calls, no connectivity whatsoever. Capability statement repository. You take your one-page capability statement, Give it away. Here's what we do better than anybody else. The capability statement repository is the circular file. It gets thrown away all the time. There's no way that they can keep up with all that stuff. So the thing we need to do about this, we got to avoid the SBA pattern. I love the SBA folks, and some of them have juice, and we'll talk. I'm not even going to talk about that juice. We'll talk about juice some other time because we got other things to talk about today. But suffice it to say that a lot of them don't have juice and can't get you connected to the people that you want. And here's the fact of the matter. The current pattern is very clear. The buyers already have resources that they're working with, that they're satisfied with. They're satisfied with them. They have existing contracts. They don't want to change, and they already have relationships with people they like. So if this is the case and we want to get in, you got to disrupt that pattern. You got to get in and know, you got to know where you're coming from first. They didn't wake up this morning and say, doggone Martin, I need to know what Martin has so that we can buy from Martin. They're not looking for you, Martin. They already have somebody that's filled the slot. So you've got to disrupt that pattern. So recapping some of those things, some of the secret sauce that we use in identifying the agency DMs, we go into it and we say, who matters the most? Who are the people that are most important to us? Because guess what? We said it before, people buy from people they like, and your job is to find them and get them to like you. How can you possibly get them to like you if you don't know who they are? You got to at least know who they are. So if they're not buying from you, then who are they buying from? One of the best ways that you can determine what's happening in your marketplace is to look at your competition and find out who's buying from your competition. Somebody that you line up with well. Maybe it's somebody that you're nipping at their heels, one of the big boys, right? Maybe you're a CPA firm. We have a CPA firm up in Buffalo we represent. They want the PwC and all the big boys, right? They want to nip at their heels. They're big. They're bigger. They're $80 million. So they're not small business, but they're still a lot smaller than the super big Deloittes out there, right? So who is it that buys from your competition? Because if we're going to go get somebody, that's what we want. So these are the folks, and we look at the dollar volumes that they're doing, right? We say, okay, Don Wheatley bought $4.5 million last year. So if that's the case, we need to know Don, don't we? And we see Matthew Butcher bought $1.7 million. I want to know Matt because he's got 21 contracts. And guess what? Some of those are big agencies and some of them are small. So getting back to some of that under the radar stuff that we were talking about earlier, they're very important, right? So identifying those people. Then we talked about manufacturing referrals. We're talking about manufacturing referral to somebody that you don't know from somebody that you don't know. Can it be done? Absolutely. Every day. We do it every day. You get in there, you talk to somebody, you leverage yourself into it. And utilizing the end, begin with the end in mind, Stephen Covey, right? Begin with the end in mind, know where you want to go, and look at the path that you can get there. And you can talk to some people and be able to do that. You can catch that on YouTube if you want. Persuasive phone tactics we talked about. How do you crack in? You know who these people are, but they don't take your call or they won't take the meeting. How do you manage that? Well, if they're not taking the meeting, there's something wrong with your pitch. Fact. If they're not taking the meeting, something wrong with your pitch. So how do you get to the place where they will take the meeting? Because they'll tell you they won't take meetings. Is that true? No, it's not true. They just don't want to meet with you. So what is the value proposition to meet with them? So phone tactics, we talked about those. Ultimately, we talked about getting ahead of the RFP, actually influencing that scope of work, getting to a place where we are not playing the reaction game from monitoring, not waiting for it to hit FBO. Because if it hits FBO, it's too late. Rule number one, if you didn't influence the RFP, somebody else did. And don't tell me that they didn't, because they did. Somebody out there has already got their fingerprints on this thing, and they already know that it's coming. They already have their verbiage in the scope of work. Absolutely happens. Finding buyers with budget. One of the questions that happened before, they were asking about for what was it that who was it that asked? Matchmaking, right? Is this you, Mark? Mark asked about matchmaking. Matchmaking doesn't help anybody if the person that you're meeting with doesn't have budget. It doesn't make any sense. If they don't have budget, it doesn't help anybody. It certainly doesn't help you. But the problem is it makes you feel like you're doing something good. And that's where we get in is disrupt that whole pattern, that SBA pattern, all those pieces, and get to a place where you're influencing the scope of work. Mentioned it before. If you didn't influence the scope, your competitor did. Assume it. Live it. That's the way life is. So we want to get into a position where we're getting ahead of that RFP, getting invited to the table early, right? So disrupting the pattern, leveraging the networks. Networking, that's what we're talking about today. And I'm going to do my best to be spot on with this stuff and make sure that we're positively in the right direction, get you done and out of here, and hopefully by quarter of. So the first thing that you need to do is pick the right events. If you're going to go to an event, make sure you figure out what's happening there and what you expect to accomplish from that. Now, I'm a firm believer in meeting with just about anybody anytime, but I know exactly what I want out of everybody when I do it. So the first thing I do is I look for high-level decision makers. And we mentioned before, Allison was asking that question. DM stands for decision makers. So you're going to look for high-level decision makers. These can be SES people. That stands for Senior Executive Service. They're the higher-level folks. They're the ones that are most of the time, not always, but most of the time, SES folks are the bureaucrats that have been around for a long time. They're the operational, functional people. They're not the presidential appointees like the higher level people. I do like the directors and administrators that are presidential appointees because who do they know that they go to every day? They go to the SES people. So you can get referrals there. Difficult to get to these administrators sometimes. So you have to be creative. And that's where the stalking comes into play as well. C-level people, there are CIOs, there's CFOs, there's Chief Information Security Officers, there's other chiefs of different things that are in the federal government. Meeting those people, very, very good for you, because if anybody knows what's happening there and who has the authority for budget, it's these folks. And a lot of times they're the ones with the budget. So if you're meeting with people, if you're going after people in networking events, look for those folks. And you're looking for buyers with budget. There are certain places where this happens. We just did one back in December where it was the VA show, and I was blown away with the level of SES people. They had directors there. They had one C-level person. But a lot of the folks that were just the regular Joes, for lack of a better term, with budget. And you have to understand that these folks that have budget, we just talked about Matthew Butcher and those guys up there before, these folks spend millions of dollars. It's not like they're like handcuffed. They have hundreds of contracts sometimes in a given year, and they spend millions and millions of dollars every single year. So these are the folks that we want to meet with. I don't want to meet with other people that don't have budget, unless they can give me some insight on the agency. I don't want to devalue anybody, but if we're going to spend our time proactively, then we better be out in front of these people. I did this, I don't know, 8 years ago for the Christian Professional Network. When we did, I was one of the keynote speakers there and talked about the 10 Commandments of networking, hence the whole 10 Commandments thing, Christian Professional Network. Connect the dots there, not hard, right? So I'm going to run through this with you because I live this stuff. And in fact, I don't get out to as many networking events as I'd like to, just because I'm slammed with client stuff and having to do business stuff. And I know you get the same way. Everybody has a limited amount of time, but I do get out from time to time. And I went to it was a contractors association. So here's an association of contract officers, right? And CMA, I think it was. So when went there, it was a local chapter, and I'd never been before. I was invited by somebody from CMS, so she suggested that I go. So I did. I went to this event, and these are the things that I follow every time that there's an event. First thing, be prepared. If you're going to go someplace, get your act together, spend a little bit of time, and make sure that you have what you need for that event. If it's just networking, most of the time it's all about business cards and things like that. But preparation trumps rejection. And I say this because some of us are afraid of networking. And sometimes I get nervous at networking events or I'm not on my game. We can't be on our game every day. We can't be on our game every day. But we still got to do it. If it's happening, we're there, we do it, we have to get through it. So preparation trumps rejection and helps get you there. Have enough cards, at least 50. I had 50, I ran out. So I didn't even take my own advice to have enough. I had 50, but I ran out. And this is a local event. So I came back with a stack of cards and everybody had my card that I had for. And I actually gave out a couple of my client cards because my name's on my client card and I handed them that way. So you can reach me here. So have enough cards, at least 50 of them, if not more, and make sure you have enough in your card that you can go back and get some more, which I didn't, that was boneheaded on me. So if you have collateral, keep it small. This is important because people are not going to carry around books of stuff from you. A little trifold, okay. I generally don't because I have a different methodology of what I'm after. I'm not there to tell anybody about me. I'm really not. So the super hint is have blank cards for people who are not prepared. How many people do you go up to and say, oh, I don't have any cards, I ran out? Now, they could be blowing you off, right? They could be blowing you off. So they could just be their excuse. So if you pull it out of your pocket and say, hey, here's one, you can write it right on here. And it's a blank card. And you could get them from Staples or Office Depot, and they come in these strips, and you just break them apart, and boom, you can have a pile of them. And it works like a champ. I did that 4 times. I only had 5 of those. So I need to get some more of those from the other day. That way they don't have an excuse. No excuses. And then you know right away if they're trying to blow you off. Because if they don't fill that out, they're darn sight not going to talk to you about business, right? So super hint number 2, use your iPhone or BlackBerry to help you, right? So I did that. I had all the names. Let me see. I'm calling it up on mine. Let's see real quick. I'm calling up on mine of my notes that I did the other day. And I'm going to tell you that Anita Allen, Karen Lyles, Catherine Tabor, I went through 1, 2, 3, 4, there was 22 people on my list of that I did not want to forget their names. Now, you can also do photos if it's senior people and you want to make sure you don't miss them, photo. Because then when you see somebody like, man, that guy looks like he might be somebody that I want to talk to, or that lady, right? So there you go. And Bob Thomas says the blank card on the back is of my business card. I use this. That's correct. My cards are too dark on the back. So good point. Blank card on the back of your business card works just as well if it's blank on the back. One of the things I will say about printed business cards is sometimes they're hard to write on. So the ones that come from Staples and stuff like that, they're real easy to write on, just like paper, but a little bit thicker, right? Like cardstock. So that's one ways you can do that too. So if it's easy to write on yours, use yours. If it's not easy to write on yours, don't use yours, because then all of a sudden the ink's rubbing off or they can't write and it's just frustrating, right? So make it easy for people, right? So there you go. So the next one is don't be offensive. Don't eat onions, for God's sake, or garlic or Doritos, for crying out loud. For me, I will burn your eyebrows off if I eat any of those. So the thing I do is eat mints, chew gum, whatever it is, and make sure that you're there. The other thing is, as far as being offensive, don't use offensive language or off-color stories. You don't know who you're talking to, and you don't know who's around you. 2 things. Even if you know the person that you're talking to, don't. Not there, because you don't know who's listening around you, right? So just make sure that you're spot on with what you're doing. And there's ways to break the rules. I just prefer to not use bad language in these situations because you never know who you're around. Here's a big one. How many times do we go to a networking event and hang out with people that we already met? Why? Why do you want to do that? Everybody that you know already knows what you do. So why would you do that? Now, maybe someone that you met before that you're trying to enhance and increase that relationship, certainly. But the real reason for being at a networking event is to tool around and meet as many people as you can. Because your friends already know who you are and what you do. You need to find somebody that you don't know and go after them, right? Next thing is act successful. This is something that we can always tell when somebody doesn't look the part or they're pretending, but at least look like somebody that somebody would want to do business with. Does it make sense? So, and being confident is important too, but, and also, and successful people get nervous, right? So, if you're nervous, just say it. Say it. It's not unprofessional to be nervous. It's human to be nervous. So if you're going to act, you can act successful, but you can still be nervous and walk up and say, you know what? I'm scared to death of this. I'm afraid to meet people. I'm afraid to be in a room with a whole bunch of people. Can you help me out? Next thing you know, boom, you're making waves. Philo, first in, last out. I use this all the time, except for when I'm late. And sometimes I am because I just can't get there. But most of the time, I'm doing my best to actually be early to events. It gives you the opportunity to get an understanding what's happening in the place, gets you to be able to see what's happening. Sometimes the key decision makers are already there. And sometimes the people that are preparing the event could use a little bit of help. So if you walk in and say, hey, I'm here early, what can I do to help? Automatically you're in a different league than somebody that just walks in and says, I'm Dave Lowe. Where's my name tag, right? So do that a little bit different. One of the things that I always do, and I look at the people and I say, who is it that's here? Whoever I'm talking to, who is it that's here that I have got to meet before I leave? Because if I can identify those people early, then through the course of the event, I can make it my point to get to those people. Last time there were 2, and I got to them, and they were right. Everybody was pointing me to that. So I asked multiple people, who should I meet before I leave? You got to meet these guys. And that's what I did. And as a result, I'm working my way in. The last one is last out. Stay until they kick you out, right? So here's what happened the other day. We're standing around. It's about 9:15. It was supposed to end at 8, right? 6 to 8. When there's people still kind of milling around. It was at a restaurant with a bar, so we were kind of hanging out there. I was already out of cards, but there was one person that was there that I found out that was a key decision maker, and I didn't realize it because the other folks didn't let me know about that. So I did, and there I was talking to the key decision maker. I was one of the last people there, and I'm not being bothered by other people. He's not being bothered by any people. We have direct conversation for about 10, 15 minutes, he and I, just he and I. And that's the critical piece. Don't be a rush to get home. Don't be a rush to give in to being uncomfortable. Go and stay there. So here's the next one. Stalking is good. I stalk the living bejeebers out of all those people. As soon as I know who I'm after them. And I'm not leaving until I get there. So many times I go into a place, high-level decision makers, you have the quarantined off there. Quarantine. How do you say that? Anyway, it's blocked off, but I'll still poke my head in behind the curtains, because if I would think about, if there's a keynote speaker, met the CIO of DHS this way. I was looking, I was like, if he's going to be speaking there and the stage is there, then I walked behind and I noticed that it's all, curtains piped, right? So I poked my head in. Hey, Steve. He said, how you doing? I said, good, man. I just want to say hi. Good luck to you today. Just want to make sure I got the chance to be able to shake your hand and say, hey, and I'll give you a shout. I got some ideas. He said, I'd love to hear it. Never met him before. So I stalked him and I found him. So in order to do that, you got to remember who they are. And that's why that thing in the beginning, being able to put it in your phone, remember who they are. Remember who you want to have FaceTime with. And then when you're introducing yourself to people of influence, you got to go out and go after them and go do that. But the next thing that you can do is really, really super awesome, is to ask for introductions from the key decision maker. And say, hey, Steve, who else do I need to meet before? And this whole show is like 6,000 people here. Who do I need to talk to before I leave here? Oh, I need to talk to Jenny. And next thing you know, I'm talking with Jenny because Steve told me to, right? So the idea is, how do we leverage those relationships? So after you stalk people, here's the deal. One of the things that I live by is acting as if, and you kind of got the flavor of it where I'll talk to somebody as if I know them already, and that's critical. If you act as if you're friends already, and you put yourself in a frame of mind that you're friends already, guess what? They're going to feel comfortable like you're friends already. It's a natural human reaction in rapport. So as we do this, we can develop those relationships very, very quickly. And here's another thing. Don't get overexcited about the bigwig that's in the room. They hate being sold anything at a networking event. The kiss of death is selling somebody at a networking event. Do not sell anybody. Just say, hey, get to know them, see if there's anything. Do something a little bit different to be remembered. Make sure that you have what you need. But don't let them intimidate you. Jeepers creepers, I can't even talk. But look, they're just people. They're just people. Don't let them intimidate you. Be comfortable in that position. Don't get goo-goo gaga-eyed, right? My brother, this past weekend, was spending 3 days with Richard Branson. Huge, right? I'm sure he's pretty gaga-eyed about that, but I know that he knows how to act as if too. So he can be, hey, this is just great. Success is everywhere. Hundreds of millions, billions of dollars were around him those days. So it was good for him. Awesome. And they put their pants on the same way. And they just want to hang out, same as you. They're there to do the same thing you are. So, number 8, listen and learn. Big, big, big thing. When you're talking with somebody, focus on them. Focus on them. And sometimes these people don't know how to really communicate well either. So maybe you can help them help you, right? So what I say is, hey, what if you have these 3 questions in your pocket? What do they do better than anyone else? Who are their best customers so that you know what they're looking like? If, in case I can run into one of your customers, who should I be looking for? And a good prospect lead. Who are they? Is it the CIO, CFO, CEO? Is somebody in mid-management? Right? So the idea is who's their best customers and who's a good prospect. Sometimes competitors. Who's one of your competitors? I'll ask that question because that helps me identify what they do. If they have a lot of times they'll say we do IT services. Like, dude, you can't just tell me you do IT services. What do you do? Everything. No, you don't. Nobody does everything. So help them peel back the onion a little bit for you so that you can help understand them. And give them examples until they come up with something that you can sink your teeth into a little bit. And use your card to write notes on for them. So their card, right? So you write, these guys do this, these guys do that. So that when you get back and you're reviewing all your information, if you met 30, 40, 50 people, you better have stuff written down because you're going to forget how that worked, who they were and how you can help them. Right? And this is the deal. 9, help others first. And so many times, this is so easy to do, but we often forget it, and I forget it too. Introduce that person you just met to somebody else. Hey, John, it's great to meet you. I know that you do IT services. You specialize in IT security. Who else would you like to meet here? Well, I'd like to meet, so-and-so or so-and-so. Well, great. Let's go over there and meet so-and-so. Right? Let's go meet Steve. Steve's the guy that you want to meet. So let's go over and meet Steve. Guess what? You can do that whether you know Steve or not. And some of those people you can introduce yourself to. And guess what happens if you introduce, who was I just saying? I can't remember. To Steve. John to Steve. Hey, John, meet Steve. And I'll just hand him off and say, John said he wanted to meet you. I'll meet you. Steve, here's John. John does IT stuff, specializes in IT security. You guys have a great day. Because guess what happens there? I get the brownie points. I get the brownie points for being able to do that. So those are the pieces that happen. Oh, here's this one. Hold on a second. Man, I didn't break this out. I apologize. This is the best. This is the best part. So don't read ahead. Just pay attention to the top. Once you've done all that, you say, can I get selfish for a minute? What this does is it totally changes the mindset. Hey, Steve, I really appreciate everything. Can I get selfish for just a second? And pause. That pause does something so dramatic for you. First of all, it reinforces that you were not there for anybody else but them, for yourself, for others, for that point. It's all about them. Second, it draws them in so focused into what you're about to say that everything else kind of goes away in the background. The noise goes away and they focus. And when they're in that focused state, they're incredibly influenceable. So from here, you have a direct connection for creating rapport and getting something that you really, really want. So if you know what you want, and for me, what I like to get a commitment for coffee or lunch, something casual where we can kick back and compare notes. Because I don't want to sell you anything yet. I just want to compare notes and see where the value is. So then after that, and I apologize, this is too much stuff at once. Tell them what you do. Say, hey, I'm Dave Lowe. I'm with isiFederal, and we help people connect the dots in federal government. And here's what I could use your help with. You know the inner workings of your agency, and I just would really like to get together with you for coffee, just to compare notes, because I'd love to get your insight. And if you want to, you can actually say this, and I have done this too. Would be too ambitious to ask to get together next week to see if there's a fit with your company or your organization. Nothing wrong with that. Because once you have them, can I get selfish for a minute? Would it be too forward of me to ask if we could get together next week to see if there's a fit with your organization? He's got to be a jerk to say no to that. Anybody had to be a jerk to say no to that after you came across that way. It would be awesome. I'd love to get together and talk about it. Now, seal it. Get it. You know, is Tuesday or Wednesday better for you? Well, I'll have to check my schedule. Okay. Tell you what I'll do. I'll give you a shout tomorrow morning. Is morning or tomorrow, is morning or afternoon better for you? So you're setting up your follow-up call so you can nail that meeting. Get that meeting. See if there's a fit, right? And then once you get it, say, and even before you have it committed, because guess what? If you ask this and he says, well, I need to check my schedule. Super. That's absolutely cool. Beside you, who do you think should be in the room that would care about what I do? And then you're going to get a litmus test if he really understands what you do. Because he's going to say, well, I don't really know what you do yet, so better for us to get together first. Okay, I'll take that. But if you can get more people in the room that you can propagate your message, right? So get that. There's the 5 steps. Tell them what you do and ask for their help. Keep it informational. Don't talk about anything. Do not pitch them. Do not sell them on your stuff. Keep it informational. And then ask for what you want. If you want a meeting, ask them for the meeting. No ask, no get. So oftentimes we get there, we say, we're going to warm this up later, never have time to warm up later. You got it. He's there right in front of you. You're talking to him. Nail it. Get that meeting. Right? So there they are. 10 commandments in networking. Be prepared. Don't be offensive. Don't hang out with people you know. Act successful. Be the first in, last out. Stalking. Stalk them. Act as if you're friends already. Act as if you are already doing business together. It's amazing what happens with that. Listen to people. Be present. Learn about what they're doing. Help others get what they want first. And then, can I get selfish for a second? So, questions. So we had a bunch of questions earlier. I'm going to roll through some of these. How do you feel about matchmaking? Got that. Hymns. Kelly says HIMSS is this week. Is that a good show? It is a good show. There's a lot of key decision makers that wind up at HIMSS. Both. That's the health one. I've met folks from CMS there and some other folks. Hijab. The GSA conference is tomorrow. Will you be there? I will be there for a little bit. So but I won't be there for the whole show. I'm going to stop in. Mark also says vendor days on site. What about them? Vendor days on site can be okay. Depends on who the people are that are going to be there. A lot of times vendor days, you're setting up a table and people cycle through. You never know. It's a crapshoot. If you had, what I use the vendor days for is if I am going to be there and I know people that I'm after there, I will go and make sure I invite them to be there and call them while I'm there if I can. Sometimes you can't use your phone in some of the places, but that's about that. Aisha asked, do small business reps have money? The answer is no. In almost all cases, small business reps do not have money. So there you go. Any more questions before we move on? Any more questions? All right, let's get to the next part. So can I get selfish for a minute? I'd like to show you something that we do. To set this up, we all know that there's a lot of money that is going to be spent in the next 170 days. And a whole lot more money is going to be spent in the next 536, which is a year and a half from now, right? So a year and a half between now and next September, you have 2 Septembers. And this is a great time of the year to be gearing up and getting yourself in the right spot. I'm going to talk about how we can help you go get some of the money that's out there to go get some of that stuff. I'm going to give you a market essentials overview. This is the key place that we start with all of our clients. All of our clients start here so that we can understand the marketplace. We can see specifically how your competitors are operating, who's buying from your competition, and how the time works. In the 12-step review you talked about before, going for gold, you can go get this from isiFederal. It's free, but getting smart about the marketplace, told you before, we find things that people just simply cannot find. I'm going to show you how we do it. The webinar special works on this, but I'm going to show you the Market Essentials sample. I'm going to get rid of that real quick. Hopefully I can get back to it without too much trouble. And what you can do is you can go to isiFederal, and we'll go there right now. And you'll see this is isiFederal's homepage, right? If you go to services, what we do, or you click here on intelligence, you can go right to where you can find out about how you can get smart about your marketplace. Here's an overview video. I'm not going to bore you with that. I'm going to show you a little bit about what that is, but you guys can go there and you can first download the free samples. There's a PDF and there's an Excel document. The PDF looks like this. This is actually real data. It's been cleansed a little bit so that the names aren't working, so it's not out there for everybody to see. But we did this for a client, and this is a specialty HVAC, so it's a very targeted market, and we look at it very simply. We have the target market. Take a look here. We have the target market, which is very, very specific. If you have a very specific product or a service, this is what we would look at first. Then we'd look at feeders. How do those things get done? Specialty HVAC in data centers. Then we look a little bit further out. They're done by HVAC companies. They're often part of facilities for support. And they're also purchased as industrial equipment. How do we know that? Because we looked at the competition and we said, this is what they think of you. They think that specialty HVAC is industrial equipment. So when we do this, we can start to understand what they think of you, not what you think of you, what they think of you. And if you want to sell to these folks, you better darn sight understand how they think. And so by that, we can take a look and we say, who are the people that are buying? Who are the 538 people that are responsible for buying data center stuff? And guess what we got? We got a ton of information here about how many contracts they did, what the largest was, and what their total was, and who they are. So when we do this, we break this down. You can take a look at how the whole thing works, but you go back and forth between these. You can return to the summary up here and go back and say, okay, what about HVAC contacts? Got those too. And we can see the types of contracts they are and what they do with them. Very important. If this guy, Brian, let's take a look at Brian here. If this guy Brian does $1.7 million in your world, do you want to know him? Darn sight you do. And he does the largest contract with 77,000. That's under the radar for almost all the big boys. They don't even care about that $77,000. But will $1.7 million make a difference in your bottom line? I think so. So when we look at these folks, we look for the right size contracts, under the radar size contracts, and that's what we try to determine what's best for you. And then we can develop a plan to go out and get them. It comes in this form and it comes in this form. So it has an executive summary that you can review, right? You just go to the executive summary page, talks about your marketplace, tells you how things are, tells you, look at this, 5 or less offers. I'm going to zoom in on that because that is worth seeing. That is absolutely worth seeing. 90% of the competition was less than 5 competitors. Guess what? This is the rest of the world, and this is BizOps, up at 10%. So if you're responding, if you're reactive, you're up here. If you're proactive, you're down here. And most of the business is being done there. So you can see some of the things. It's probably going to be very similar in your market. Could be 80%, could be 70%. Doesn't really matter. I'd rather compete against 5 people than 50. Because I'd rather not bang my head against the wall. And I don't want to be reactive. I want to be proactive. I want to get ahead of that RFP and make sure that we can do what we need to do. Make sense? So with this, you get the key contacts who buy your stuff, your competitors' contacts, under the radar contracts, the agency spending so that you know where the money is, the primes and their contacts so that you can go after their contacts to get referrals into the primes, and recommended action steps for you. This is Market Essentials. Regularly, it's $4,500. You saw it there on isiFederal. Web special is $39.95. And then, a little bit of kudos for us. William Scotsman's the number one in the federal business with mobile trailers and such. They are very successful. 28% of the marketplace, flat out. That's what they had. And they still came to us. Why? Because they already have the databases. They already have all those things. But what we did is we showed the market differently so that they would change their marketplace. They did it structural. They did an entire overhaul. And now they're teaming up and partnering, and that number's going up dramatically. So those are some of the things. So your competition is qualified. They're trusted. They're winning right now. If you want to win, you got to get in, disrupt the pattern, and give your buyers a reason to change. Another way we do that is we take that Market Essentials and we say, okay, now that we know the who behind this, we want to go after them and provide introductions so that you can stay after them, or you can hire us to stay after them. Either way, beautiful, either way. Get the Market Essentials, the capabilities review. We do an email marketing process where we do an introduction with you, follow-up, second follow-up, $52.49. So all that package for $39.95 plus another $12.50, $12.55 or something, $12.54. Get you a proactive effort to get you started. If you're not doing it, then you're going to be missing what's happening out there. So real quick, we are. Oh man, I still didn't do it in time. It's 11:53, but I will be under an hour. So go to isiFederal.com, download this stuff. Love to talk with you about those things if you'd like to. Revolution Payment Systems. Go if you're doing credit cards, you got to check them out. And it's revolution-payments.com. You can go check them out and have Sean give you a price for that. It's just the right thing to do because they understand the federal government if you're doing it. So just check them out and do that. Next, How to Go Federal, May 12th is 11 a.m. Disrupting the pattern. We're going to continue this all throughout this year. I am so bent on it. I love it. I love it. So if there's anything that we can do for you to help you disrupt that pattern, please feel free to reach out to us. My contact information, Jamie mentioned his before, and there's Sean's information if you would like the level 3 compliance processing. So there you go. Any other questions before we jump? Let's see. Anybody got anything? Let me scroll down here. I need to open this other thing. I don't want it to go out. Bob says, thanks. Bob, you're certainly welcome. Love for you being here. Appreciate it. Let's see. Anything else? I'm kind of scrolling through these to see if there's anything that I missed. I don't think I did. So, well, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you guys being here. If you need to reach out to us, please feel free to, and we'll see you next month. Jamie, thanks for joining us. Sorry I didn't get you in there as much as we should, but next time we will, because we got to talk about some GSA stuff too.